I'm a little bit nervous because I usually teach technical things on guitar, but some of the things I've learned that are very important came from gigs, and some of the most important things that I ever learned came from my very first gig over 40 years ago. I often tell people there's a vast difference in musicians before and after they've been on stage, even if it's an open mic. And the reason I say that is because of my first gig and what it did for me. Now, long before there was a GarageBand app, I played in my first GarageBand. And we played a few songs. I remember distinctly that we played Love Stinks, so that kind of tells you the era. Now, it was fun. It was a great fun, but after a while, we never really got anywhere, and it kind of ceased being fun playing the same things over and over. So we kind of ended it. Then I got into my second garage band, and we were just as good or bad as the first band that I was in. And we learned a few songs. It was fun, same as before, but then something amazing happened. We got a gig somehow. The drummer's sister knew a Catholic school nearby that was having a dance, and they needed a band, and they needed it to be cheap. So we cut a very quick demo on one of those old recorders that you could find in the 70s. Remember those? And apparently she showed it to them, and amazingly we got the gig. Now, we had about 2 weeks to get ready, so we learned some songs that we thought made a lot of sense. Maybe 25 songs in total, which was an amazing improvement. But another thing that we ran into, another problem that we ran into, is we didn't have the equipment that we needed, and we had no money. So I remember distinctly that we borrowed a guitar amp and we plugged the one microphone that we had into the guitar mic, and that was our PA system. I also remember that we used a coat rack. We kind of hacked apart a coat rack to make a mic stand. So these were the things you did when you had no money, you couldn't afford to buy these things. Anyway, the big day comes, and none of us can drive yet, right? So we have to get, again, the drummer's sister. She borrowed the family's Econoline van, remember those, they fit everything, and drove a bunch of us, or picked us up, loaded our equipment, and we drove to the gig that way. So we get to the church school, and the dance is going to be in the cafeteria, and they've moved a bunch of the tables and chairs to the sides, and they've put some streamers in. Clearly they've prepared this, and there's this tiny, tiny space where we were supposed to set up, and even with our meager equipment, there's no way we were going to fit there. So that was a problem. Well, it was a problem, but we had a much bigger problem because the old cliche, one of the guitarists didn't show up for the gig. So instead of being a four-piece band, we were a trio. So it solved our space problem, but now we had a much bigger problem. I had to play all the guitar parts, and I had to sing every song as well. You see, I was really the number two guitarist, and while I played some lead and I played rhythm, it left a big hole, and I definitely had to fill both parts. And add to that, I had to do all the singing. I don't have to tell you, I was super, super nervous to do this gig. But here's where the cool part really kicks in, because we started the first song, and I don't even remember what it was, but all the nerves kind of came out, and people actually got up. These kids actually got up, and they were dancing. And when we finished the song, they went bananas. It was just awesome. I totally forgot about all the nerves that I had and just kind of started to enjoy myself. And the whole 2 sets that we played 2 sets, it just started flowing through from the time that I remember telling the audience that my voice was going to be raw. I had to MC the event as well and talk between songs, to watching the chaperones keep, kind of circle like hawks to make sure the kids weren't doing anything that they weren't supposed to during the slow dances. It was just all new experience for me to play. And then all of a sudden, it was all over. We finished this last song of our second set, and believe it or not, the kids were calling for an encore. I was like, the kids, I was a kid myself, but these were younger kids, and they were calling for an encore, and I was like, yeah, we're going to do an encore. And I was checking with the band, and the chaperone said no, and so the whole thing was over, and we started packing up. And while we were packing up, they came over and they actually paid us too. I'm sure it was all of $40 or $45 between the 3 of us, not really a fortune. But you know what? It totally jazzed us. It totally psyched us up. and inspired us to keep going. And we got lots of other gigs after that, and we kept getting better as a band and as musicians. So what still sticks with me 42 years after that first gig? Well, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a live stream or my radio show or a gig or studio work. Yeah, I'm nervous before every time I do this, but I tell myself it's going to be okay. You just have to relax, let yourself have fun, and everybody else will too. To me, that's the most important thing. All right, if you dug this and you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Click that subscribe button. Let's keep this party going. All right, click the subscribe and I'll see you on down the road.